X53, climb maintain 13,000.
13,000, Tempo 63.
63, contact the New York Center 128.3.
28-3, Tempo 63, good day.
Hello, loungers. So I was going to do a flight this afternoon and ruined by a corrupt controls file. So here I am hoping to set this back up as quick as possible, but I figured why not share my settings with everyone else and see if somebody else can pick up a tip or two, or see if somebody in the chat here, because we are also doing a live show. See if somebody in the chat can offer a tip for what they do for things on their X55 or 56 now as well. Things like these rotaries, for example, which I don't use, but it looks like, as you can see by default, centers the rudder and goes hard right rudder. This is the absolute wackiest things. We're dealing with a completely default setting now. Oh my god, the things that happen are just weird. Look at this. Look what throttles do. It's unbelievable. So, you know, imagine my my joy when I hopped in an aircraft that I expected to work correctly, and things as simple as this were happening, where the throttle was altering these surfaces. My parking brake setting as well raises and lowers the gear. So prepare for some fun in case I test the parking brake lever and things happen. But yeah, so let's get started. One of the cool things, and I thought it was super nerdy when I first did it, but then I shared photos on the Sky Lounge and everybody's like, "Yo, that's awesome! I like that! I like that." Kathleen bought a label maker, like an old school style, pressure impression label maker, and she wanted to label all her cans and not cans, jars and whatnot in the kitchen, a la Pinterest, right? And I saw it just sitting there staring at me, and I said, all right, well, what if I mean, that looks industrial, right? I mean, that's a lot of old industrial camera equipment and stuff like that use that same type of label maker. Like, what if I labeled my controls? So I went with it and ended up with this, where I actually have my controls labeled. In this case, it would be viewed, top, bottom, for battery, alternator, start, stop, door, labels, flaps, gear, park, pushback. Some of the things may not be convenient to everyone, but for me they work, because it's kind of behind the scenes production value things, right? Like I personally choose not to spend an hour and a half setting up an aircraft. So often, for the sake of the show and the time that we run on, we'll just do a quick start, right? So I have my start and my stop sitting right there. There are times where I go through a checklist, and there are times where, just honestly, with a 3-hour tour flight ahead of me, I don't really need to. It doesn't necessarily add a value to the experience of what the Sky Lounge is at the core. So I've got some of those types of things mapped over here for quick access. So I'll kind of just start setting this up again and walk through it. We'll start kind of from the top. I like to start with the most basic controls, I guess, see what's wrong. The stick itself seems to be okay. However, I believe that this is now, it is conflicting with EasyDock, which is why it is jittering. So all of these need to be remapped. My goodness, where to start? Let's start with EasyDock setup, and we'll start with EasyDock setup so that we have the comfort of navigating using our keys. Navigating using our keys is important, so that we can see. I can't even do that really. Creep up on a control surface and test it for for the sake of verifying that we have set up our controls correctly. Even the rudder that I just picked up, the rudders, the Thrustmasters, are now jacked up. Here we'll do some rudder control. That is rudder left and rudder right. As you can see, controlling the wrong thing. Brakes. left, right, brakes. It's madness. Like it's completely destroyed all the controls. So we're gonna start fresh. Let's get our Easy Dock stuff set up first. For those of you out there that don't have Easy Dock yet, this video could come in handy. I know you hear me say how bad it sucks. That is absolutely true. Easy Dock sucks, and if you do production, you may feel like you need it. I can tell you this much: just wait. Something great is on the horizon. Just hold back. But until then, the show here must go on. So we need to set up Easy Dock. Let's get that going. I will walk through step by step what keys you need to wipe out in order to get Easy Dock functioning. We'll open up our settings area here and go into controls, and we'll start with buttons and keys. And this is where the fun begins. What you want to do is you want to find a line that's empty. In this case, it's the ADF ident on off line. It's empty anyways. So what we're going to do is program things in and then wipe them out. By programming in a key, you are unassigning it from what it was originally assigned for. By doing that, you're removing the conflict. And then by deleting it, you're just simply deleting it. So you no longer have a conflict. So Easy Dock requires, and I have these keys here. You don't have color here. Unfortunately, my vintage camera doesn't do color. But my keyboard is lit up accordingly for production. So I've got my scenes on the far left in a different color code for stages of the show. I've got my general keys in a certain color, and then I have my production keys in another color as well. My Easy Dock ones are outlined here in my keyboard in colors. So I easily know right now what I need to wipe out. Up, down, left, right, page up, page down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are generally the ones you want to wipe out. They also recommend doing ASDW, I believe it is. But I've not done that in the past, and it's been okay. So let's dive in. Again, we are in settings and controls, and we're going to work with the ADF2 ident on off line. We'll start with the arrow keys: up, down, left, right. So what we'll do is we'll double click that line. It opens up the box that's empty because nothing's assigned to it, and we'll click up. It'll say number 8 or up is currently assigned to pitch down, elevator down. So this is where we're removing the conflict. We're gonna hit OK. We don't care, right? That's the point, is to remove this conflict. Currently assigned to pitch down. Are you sure? Yes. Okay. So now ADF2 is set to number 8, which is basically the up arrow. We're going to click that now, and we're going to hit, actually we're not going to double click it. We're going to click it once, and now click delete assignment. Right, so now that up key is no longer assigned to elevator, and is no longer assigned to the ADF2. That up key now is free. And that's what we want. So we'll do the same with left, right, and down. So we'll do down and left and right. So double click, press down, hit OK. It'll tell us it's currently assigned. We'll say yes. Then we'll click it once and hit delete assignment. Now we've wiped conflict with the down key. Do the same for left and right. And right. And delete assignment. So there we go. We've got up, down, left, right now clear on the keyboard. So that'll free that up for easy dock usage. Next would be page up and page down, which need to be cleared out. As you can see, page up was mapped to throttle increase, which was a lot of fun, by the way, discovering that this was all wiped out. So we will now delete that assignment, and page down is to throttle decrease. And delete that assignment. Now we've got up, down, left, right, page up, page down are clear, and we'll do the same for number pad 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we'll do 2, delete, we'll do 3, delete, we'll do 4, delete. Goes a lot faster once you have your flow. Delete, and number 6. Delete. Moving on with the easy dock things, the joystick view, what do they call it? The hat. That needs to be wiped out. So what we'll do is we'll do a search. Make sure that your stick is selected in the pull down for controller type, because we're working with the stick now. We'll type in view and scroll down, and you'll see that view pan is set to hat switch 1, which is the one that was conflicting earlier. And since Easy Dock's now going to manage that, we're going to wipe that out. So just do delete assignment and OK. So now we still have our control surfaces all sorts of messed up because we haven't tackled that yet. But now we've got other things working correctly without conflict. So no longer throttle up and throttle down. Let's see. Page up and page down should no longer throttle up and throttle down. Yep, correct. Confirmed. They don't. They simply move the camera up and down as it should with Easy Dock. Hi GR. Alright, moving on to control surfaces now. Let's start with the simple stuff, shall we? Rudders. I have at my feet left rudder, right rudder, and toe brakes, which right now are controlling completely the wrong surfaces, as you can see here. This is amazing, actually. That's what the rudders are controlling right now. It's kind of amazing. So we need to reset that, obviously. And since there really are only 1, 2, 3, 4 movements on the rudder, let's work on that in the controls. Again, we'll go to settings and controls. And this time we need to be under axis, the axis tab, because the rudders are not buttons or keys. We need to be under axis. And then in the controller type pull down, you have to actually select your T rudder or whatever rudder it is you have under your desk. We're going to scroll down to rudder axis, and we will click it, double click it, and now put our feet on our rudder and move. So that axis is the Z axis. That's now registered. We will hit OK. And let's see the magic. Rudder right, rudder left. Rudder right, rudder left. So that's now set correctly. We'll go back into settings, controls, and the rudder axis sensitivity. This is going to be based on personal preference. You're all able to do whatever it is you want to do. You can try my settings. You can always just reset them back to the default, which in my case is 64. I am going to slide my sensitivity down to 32, which is where I had it before. Roughly. I think I may have even gone lower. So we'll set the rudder axis sensitivity to 32. Oops, wrong controller type. Make sure to select your controller type. Down to 32. And that's going to set our rudder. Little bit of a null zone in there as well, because the weight of your feet are being placed on this. You don't want it to be ultra sensitive, so there's a little bit of a null zone in there also. Next step, let's work on the brakes. As you can see, the brakes are currently triggering elevators, so we need to work on that. So we'll click on settings, controls, axis, and what we'll do is, instead of like hunting down what it is they are doing, we'll just force the conflict, right? So we'll do brakes. So we have a brake left axis and a brake right axis. So what we'll do is we'll do brake left axis first, and we will press the left brake. Oh wait, no, hold on. Yes, we need to select our controller first. Oh, keep forgetting to select the controller first. Double click brake left axis and click it. Left brake. And it's saying it was currently assigned to elevator. Do we want to reassign? Yes. Now we're going to reassign to brake right. Click. And we're all done. So now rudders work there, and the brakes should work as well for right and left. So that takes care of the rudder pedals. Rudder pedals are they're now fully set up. Moving on to the other control surfaces. These all need to still be set again too. Actually, that's all correct. So there doesn't seem to be any more conflict at the joystick level. Although the buttons themselves on the joysticks have reset. So the actual buttons themselves do need to be reprogrammed. I have things like gear and autopilot engage, disengage, and wing fold and all sorts of stuff bound to the actual joystick. And that needs to be reset. So let's start, because again, we'll start with whatever has less buttons. We'll start with the joystick. Settings, controls, and we'll select the stick in the pull down. Alright, and we'll go to buttons and keys. Buttons and keys are what we want to mess with. Now I'll go through kind of what I have set up on here. Some important ones, I'll start at the top and work down. Big red button here, I have that set to autopilot engage, disengage. So in the search box, we'll just type autopilot, and there it is. We have autopilot master on off. Okay, it's gonna have an entry already with the Z key because that's what's bound by default on the keyboard itself. Just double click that, click your empty box, and click the button you wish to assign. Again, I use this one here. Comes in great for ILS landings where you want to release the autopilot a few hundred feet off the ground. You're coming in, and without needing to even take your hand off the stick, your instant release is right there. Boop, and it's a big red button, and it actually takes some force to push it down, so it makes releasing it a lot easier and less accidental, right? Like it's handy, but you're not going to accidentally bump it because it's a pretty stiff button. That also works for engage, so keep that in mind. As you can see here, it's there is a conflict, and we don't care to override it. So now that's going to work for autopilot engage, disengage. And we'll keep working on the controls for the joystick. We have up next would be, so that is look, let's see, hat. Oh, we cleared the hat switch already. That's right, we cleared the hat switch. Now the, God, what would this one be officially called? So I call it like the reverse hat switch is the one that's coming out. It's extruded. I have that set to trim up and trim down. I also have this knob set to trim up and trim down. So I actually have two settings for trim, and the logic behind that is that there are times, Learjet, a great example, the thing takes off like a rocket ship. You can quickly nudge, quick short nudges, quick trim adjustments there, but if there's ever a case where you need a quick recentering, you can do that just by feel here. Because it has a center click point on this rotary, you'll always know where the center trim is. I was told by somebody that there actually is a trim center button that you can set. I didn't know about that, but apparently there is, and sure enough, here it is. Aileron trim center does have a button. The problem is I don't have a spare button close enough to the joystick where the trim is here for a center. Like if this were a button also, that would make sense because I would then be able to trim nose up, trim nose down, and push for center. But it's not a button, so I can't really do that. To me, it still makes sense to have a quick trim center right here because there are other cases where I need to make bigger trim adjustments, and it's a lot easier to do that with this wheel than it is with, you know, nudging it on the joystick itself. So we'll set not aileron trim, elevator trim. Let's set that up now. We'll set down will be up, so button 7, and up will be down. So that's now set. And it looks like elevator trim does not have a center setting. Rudder trim and aileron trim do. Elevator trim does not have a center button setting. So now let's check on that. And that's working. That's actually working in the reverse, now that I think about it. There we go. So we've got trim set. What else do we have on the joystick? That is bound in Easy Dock to a view. Do not think that it conflicts with anything. Don't think that it conflicts with anything, but let's see. Button 3, nah, it's got nothing by default. That's a good thing. We know that's going to work just fine. The working down will continue working down. The trigger, this should be brake apply release. It is good. In this case, we'll say no. We do not want to reassign. Let's keep it at brake release and apply. By the way, you might be wondering how I'm testing what something is. Again, we're going to use that ADF2 line that's just sitting there blank. And you double click that, you click on the box, and you click whatever you want to check to see if it's assigned. And it'll tell you right there, button 1 is assigned to brakes. So at that point, you have the chance to hit cancel or OK. Working down, let's check the other switch on the side of at the thumb region. Let's see if that's assigned to anything. Button 4, nope, it's blank. That's good because we use that as push to talk for Discord. Keep that right there. Moving down the stick, we do have a button tucked away down here. We use that as well in Easy Dock. It's currently assigned to extend flaps. We don't want that. We don't want that. So we're going to say, yes, reassign it to ADF2. And then we're going to go to ADF2 and just delete assignment. So now that button is bound to nothing. And that's handy for production because of its proximity to just where your hand seems to be at all times during the flight. It's right at the pinky level. And what I have in Easy Dock is views, quick views, first class passenger view, and dash cam view. I'm giving away all the secrets tonight. Moving down, we've got a trigger here, which is different from the button. We've got a trigger that we can reach out to. That trigger is nice for wing folds and stuff like that. So what we'll do is we'll say, we'll do a search for wing, fold, unfold. And we will assign that trigger to that. It's currently set to retract flaps. So we're going to overwrite that and say yes. Alright, so we're good to go there. Dash cam view, boom. First class passenger view, boom. All conflict free now. And for our own sanity, we'll double check our rudder. Rudder's good. This will now trigger brakes as well. We technically could do a little test flight, but we still have issues like this, where the throttle is now set at still its default settings, which, as you can see, is completely incorrect. So we'll set that next. Options, settings, controls. Again, we'll go to axis because this is an axis, not a button. And we'll start with that. We'll start with that axis. Then we'll do rotaries, and then we'll work down to our buttons and programming the buttons. And I'll put this question out there now. If anyone watching has any ideas, any feedback, please add them in the chat, in the live channel, or put them in the comments below once this hits YouTube. These rotaries sit here pretty much unused, for example. I have yet to really come up with a great use for them, so if you have one, I'd love to hear it. Same goes for the mode selector. Haven't really put a use to it, so we'll work from the top down again with this controller. So we'll go to axis, and we know that we want this to control engine throttle. And you have two approaches here, specifically with this setup. The X55 has a lock, so that everything functions as one. Or if you release that, they function individually. And the nice thing about this is controlling beasts like the Twin Otter, for example. Making tight turns on a runway, for example, the C47, another beast that I like to really use split throttle on, especially in a crosswind landing. In a crosswind landing, having that split throttle really comes in handy because it can help correct some extreme conditions. But there are times where you may just want to have them function as one. It's important to note that if you have a tri-engine aircraft, that having these set to engine 1 and engine 2 will not work out well for you, because what it'll do is it'll drive left and center. Your right engine will get no action and it'll just sit there at idle or off. Hello, Mr. Crawley. Welcome, welcome. So keep that in mind. If you do set up for split throttle right now, and you do fly a tri-engine plane, you're gonna need to come in here and set it up for just a single throttle. So, because we rarely fly the tri-engine planes, let's set this up as individuals. So we'll unlock it so that they freely move separate from each other, one to the other, and we'll set the first one to engine 1 throttle axis. So we'll double click there and we'll move forward engine 1 throttle axis. Oh, that's not working. Why did it not register in this white box? Very simple, my friends. I did not select the controller type. We're setting up the Rhino throttle now. So we'll find out once again, engine throttle axis. And we'll move that. It'll register as the X axis and we'll hit OK. As you see, it's currently assigned to the ailerons and we want to reassign it. It's really important here that you that you read carefully, because you have, for each individual engine, you have engine mixture, engine propeller, and engine throttle. And there was one time when this happened before, and I had one engine set up for engine throttle for engine 1, and engine 2 was set up to engine propeller axis. And that made for a really fun time on the ground, troubleshooting. So now we'll move on to number 2, and we'll double click on engine 2 throttle axis and move that axis forward. It's going to register as the Y axis and we'll hit OK and set. So we'll hit OK. And now these should no longer move these. There we go. So now let's just reset that. Simple movement. There you go. So now the throttle axis no longer controls the ailerons. which is a good thing. So continuing on, we'll move on down the throttle axis. So we've started off with the big programming. We'll move into rotary dials, which in this case, the only one that I have. I used to utilize this one as well, and this one was a quick seat adjustment. There's a metal one on the end that has step notches, and you can feel each step. And I used to use that to adjust the seat height up a little, down a little. I no longer do, and the reason behind removing that is its proximity to your hand was really causing lots of accidental triggering of it. Because you kind of reach over and put your hand down, if the edge of your hand just barely touches it, it's going to move it a notch or two, and it gets pretty annoying over time. So I removed that. We'll do the rotary now. Like I said, I have my trim set up here for bumping up and down, and you'll see that movement. We'll move in on the trim since we're going to focus on trim now. So you'll see here my trim is set up for pretty specific movements. And this is very precise trim when it's here because it's built to be just bumped. And it's making very minor adjustments to the trim. It will not continue, it'll step it. The quicker your flick of that switch is, the smaller the movement in trim. Makes it real nice. But again, there are times where you may end up at an extreme trim angle and need to quickly reset the center. And for that very reason, I also use this knob for trim. And the reason for that is it has a centering click, so you know when this knob is at dead center. Currently it's not bound to trim yet, so let's do that now. Options, settings, control. And again, this is going to be an axis in this case. And we need to select the throttle and the pull down. And let's scroll down to elevator trim axis. So we'll double click that and rotate. It's going to register as the Z axis and we'll hit OK. And now you'll see the benefit of this. So if I'm sitting here with the trim at an extreme angle, I've got no quick reset of it. I visually, when I'm on the deck, don't know where center is. And I may not have an indicator on the dash or anything either. So I don't really know from touch, from feel, where center is, unless I'm memorizing how many bumps up and how long each bump was. I have no real easy way of knowing. But now, with the slider that we just, with the rotary we just set, check this out. An instant centering of the trim. It's super helpful in many circumstances. Also, like I mentioned earlier, if you have an aircraft that requires a bit more aggressive trim, the Learjet likes very fine adjustments. This is beautiful for the Learjet. It likes very fine adjustments. But there are some aircraft that require larger adjustments. And for that, the proximity of this rotary to your thumb makes those larger adjustments really easy. Because with this slider, or with this rotary, we can make those larger adjustments real quick. And as always, with our eyes closed, we know where center is. So that's important. When you're sitting up here, you want that tactile feedback of knowing trim is currently centered. Alright, so that's set. Trim is fully set up now. Moving on down the throttle, we will do. What do we have over here? Ah, yes. Technically, this is the next highest button. We've got a few on the back side. Mainly, I'm interested in this far left one. This is a trick that came from Mr. Sparks. This is we're gonna set that up for reversers. When your hand is on the X55, typically holding it about like this, which puts that trim easily accessible, but also right at your pinky is this button, and it's an up-down button, so it makes it really easy for this movement. Right? Full throttle back, landing, cut the throttle, touchdown, reversers, pull up, reversers engaged, speed reached, push down, full idle. And that action becomes so easy because your hand is on here anyways. You're pulling this back, you want to know that you hit full throttle cut and quick reversers and full idle to stop the reversers. So we're going to set that up now. Settings, controls, axis. This is the X55, Mr. Crowley. And that's going to register as a button, so it's buttons and keys. And reversers are not called reversers in this menu area. So what you're going to look for is you're going to look for throttle, and you're going to find the entry for throttle decrease quickly. Double click throttle decrease quickly and pull back on that button. Oh, guys, we did not select our controller type. Alright, now we have the throttle selected. Double click that again and pull up on that switch. Boom, button 28 registers. And then we will do the next one, which is pushing that button down, and that you want to set to throttle cut, which is the F1 currently. So we're going to find throttle cut, and we're going to double click that, and we're going to push down on that button. Boom, button 29. Hit OK. So nothing we can visually see on this plane specifically, but now that's going to be set to reversers and full throttle cut. Set it to idle. So moving on. Moving on down the throttle. Next would be this button right here, right at the thumb. Again, another very comfortably placed button. You've got your trim now up here, and then a step down from that is this button. It's red, which basically means don't touch this unless you have to. This button will be for speed brakes. It's a nice stiff button, much like the autopilot button that we have up here, engage, disengage. I mean, you can really hit this and you're not going to do it accidentally. So it's got some protection. Same thing here. You want that on a button that's not going to accidentally get bumped. It's a stiff, flat button that you really have to want to push. It's not going to happen accidentally. Options, settings, controls. This is going to register as a button. We're going to select our throttle. And what do we call these? I wanted to say speed. No, they call them oh geez. This is the fun, right? It is called What is speed brake called? Of course I'm gonna forget now, right? It's not brakes, it's my goodness. I always forget what the speed brakes are referred to in this menu. Spoilers. Spoilers. Thank you, Mr. Crawley. These are the spoilers. So we're gonna click on spoilers extend retract. And we'll click that button. Button 1. Okay. Yes. Hit OK. And of course, we don't have spoilers on this plane, so we can't test that out. But that's now going to extend and retract the spoilers. Good stuff. Good stuff. Alright, moving on to the rest of the keys now. We've got a few others. We're not going to bother with any of these. I did have these set up for custom camera views. A lot of my production stuff is set up on keys like this where I have sweeps and stuff, but we're not going to get into that because it's not general flight sim stuff. Moving on down to the labeled ones. We'll start from the top and work our way down towards the bottom because everything up here is already now set up. I used to have these set up also. I no longer do. So we'll start from the top again. Just to kind of recap the past. At the top of the show, I kind of explained what I did with these with a label maker. Kathleen had bought an old school label maker to label her jars in the kitchen, and I've always been a fan of those label makers, being a vintage aficionado, and picked it up and put some industrial labels on my X55. So I know what everything is visually. I can quickly say when Noodle was here, for example, sit down, Noodle. And you now know exactly what everything is. I really don't have to explain it. These are flaps up, down, gear up, down, parking brake up, push back, back, battery on, alternator on, start, stop, doors, labels, etc. All right here. So we'll move in and start from the top. Settings, controls, buttons and keys, and we will do battery. Master battery on off. We need to make sure to select the throttle. And battery I have set to the first switch up. That's going to register as button 18. We're going to hit OK. Hit OK again, and that's now master battery on. Comes in really handy. Moving on to alternator. We'll do buttons and keys. And we'll do alternator. And that's going to be master battery alternator on off. We'll hit down on that. Oh, we need to select the throttle. That's going to register as button 19 and we'll hit OK. Now we've got our battery and our alternator as well. Sorry, there's something I misguided you on here. It wasn't the combined one. Alternator. It's the generator alternator one. Not the master battery alternator. The master battery alternator one will actually combine the two. So it's just one switch for both. But since we have all these switches available here, we don't want to do that. We'll make up battery and we'll make down alternator. So we'll keep them individual. So we've got battery and alternator. And moving on to the next, we have start and stop. Like I said at the top of the show, when I'm doing production, for the sake of time, because I don't want to be the streamer that sits on the ground for 2 hours setting up a plane, setting up a flight. Very often it is convenient and detracts nothing from what we offer the flight sim community, at least, to do a quick start. So I have a quick start and a stop sitting right here on the switch. Obviously there are times where we do the full checklist, but quite often for a 3-hour show that has to be a 3-hour show, we keep it quick. So we're going to do start. Under buttons and keys, we need to make sure to select our throttle. And we have engine start. And we're going to select up on that. And we're going to select shutdown, engine shutdown. And we're going to press down on that. That's registering as buttons 16 for up and 17 for down. And now we should have magic. May have a dead battery. Now we're good. There we go, we're getting closer and closer. Getting closer and closer now to being fully set up again. For those just joining the live stream, we're recording content for YouTube, and essentially this afternoon I went to do a flight with Mr. Salty Cracker, and unfortunately was greeted with a corrupt controls file, so I was unable to participate. And rather than be bitter about it, I figured, you know what, I'll share some behind the scenes stuff and maybe help others while doing it. So here we are, setting it up from the crazy defaults to something that works well with Easy Dock and for just production value overall. So we've got engine start tested, and now we'll do a quick engine stop. And battery. Very nice. So now we can test some of the other things that we just set up now that we have movement in the aircraft. We still don't have doors, gear, flaps, or anything like that set up. So we'll just do a quick ground test for brakes. Since we did set up a quick brake here, but we also set up our rudders and we set up our differential brakes as well. So let's get that going. And we'll release the parking brake manually. Throttle is another thing that we recently fixed, so we'll do a test for that.
Hey,
hold the brake down because we just set that, and hopefully that works. Alex, thank you for the follow and welcome to the Sky Lounge. So we're holding the brake and we'll throttle up the right engine only. So that brake is not currently working, trigger brake, but let's see if our toe brakes are. They are indeed. And the right engine is functioning correctly. So we've got that going for us. And now we'll test the left engine. Alright, so that's passed. And now we'll test our braking. Right brake. Left brake. That's a check. Both brakes. And now we'll check rudder. These are all things we just set up, folks. So currently in the testing phase, and we're not quite done yet with the setup of our buttons, so we're only testing a few things on the ground just to make absolutely sure that we're working. Left rudder. Right rudder, and brakes. Now we're good. Set our parking brake on, and we'll shut her down. All right. Got a few more things to set up here. Going down the line, down the side of the X55 throttle. The next one down, which would be the third switch, I've got set up to the door. Again, a lot of these are not going to be practical for your everyday flyers. And what the heck do you need a door one for? But for production use, this could come in very handy. So. That is going to be door. Settings, controls, buttons and keys. Set your throttle as the controller type and type in door. Open, close, double click it, and door open. Then same thing, double click the line and door close. Hit OK. And let's see. There we go. Get in there. Very nice. Moving down, we've got labels. The labels quick on off for me is really important because I tend to take a lot of screenshots, and labels for me in a show come on when I'm on approach or when I'm in the general area of our destination. I'll turn on labels so that I can see all the other traffic of the multiplayers flying with us. Makes it a lot easier since in some cases we don't have voice communications with all the flyers. Turning on labels lets me kind of see people's intentions in the air in front of me, but then I can quickly turn it off once we're on the ground, because I don't want to see a bunch of red labels zooming around the airport. I want to keep it clean. Also, again, like I said, for screenshots, both when doing a screenshot, I'll turn them on and off. Sometimes I turn them on to show just how many people are in the air with us, and sometimes I'll turn them off to get a nice clean shot for submission at the skylounge.tv. So we'll set that to labels, open option settings, controls, do a search for labels. Oopsies, I hit return too damn soon. Too damn soon. Labels, and we'll set that to throttle. And there we go, we have auto hide. Display aircraft labels, display and hide. So flick that switch, which is a fourth one down, and we'll flip it up. And we'll flip it down as well. There's buttons 12 and 13, and we'll hit OK. So now we've got labels bound to that as well. And we can't test it right now. We don't have any other aircraft on the ground with us, but know that it works. Nice setup, says Step. Thank you so much. The rotaries here on the side, the rotaries for me don't have a use yet. But this is a block that intrigues me, and I'm always thinking, what can I use those for? I don't know right now, but if you have any ideas, please let me know. These two rotary knobs right here. Ooh, you know what though? This is why we're testing at Edwards. Look at this. Look at what the default does. You ready? You ready for this? Whoa! That's an accidental bump you don't want to make. Oh, can you imagine the madness? So let's see what happens when I correct with the rudder. Okay, that centers it again. But man, that's a quick jump. Let's flick it. Look at that! Oh man! See, that's an accident ready to happen right there. That's like something you'd see on aircraft investigations, man. Sheesh. We do not need that snapping hard left or hard right like that. So we're going to wipe that out. Again, settings, controls. This is going to be an axis. So click on axis. And since we're wiping it out, we don't care to find what we want it to be. We just care to find an empty one and then delete it. So we're going to work with the buoyancy axis. Oops. We need to select the throttle. We're going to flip the first one. It's going to register as the RY axis. We're going to hit OK, and then we're going to select it again and hit delete assignment. Then we'll do the same with the next one down. That's going to register as the RZ axis. We're going to hit OK. It's going to ask to reassign. We're going to hit yes. And then we're going to select it again and delete assignment. With that, we'll center it now with the rudder. Rudder's on the ground, and we'll test. So now we've got no movement. That binding is now gone. So no fear of, of hard right rudder just because you bump one of these. So we'll move along to the final steps here, which are these, the three switches at the bottom. We've got we'll work from left to right. We've got flaps up and down. We've got gear up and down, and then we have parking brake and pushback. So let's set that now. And options, settings, controls, and these would register as buttons. So we're going to select the throttle, hit the buttons and keys, and we want flaps. So we'll type flaps. And we have extend incrementally. That's the one you want. So we'll double click on that and we'll hit down on the first switch. That's going to register as button 7. It used to be assigned to release droppable objects. We're going to wipe that. And then we have retract. Retract, we're going to push up. That's going to register as button 6. We're going to hit OK. And we'll do a test. Oh, we've got no battery power. Alright, we're good on that. As expected. And up. Also important to point out, the cool thing about these buttons is you can actually flip them a few times and it's going to register that. So, comes in very handy. Flaps are set, moving on to gear. Gear we're not going to test here, we're going to test gear in the air. So what we'll do is we'll do park and push back first. We'll skip over gear, and then we'll come back to gear. We'll set that and then take it up into the skies. Again, options, settings, controls. These are buttons and keys. And parking brake. And we'll set that to up. Oh, see, that used to be set to retract landing gear. That was very dangerous. And push back. Alright, we've got that set. We'll set the gear now. And that's going to register as buttons 8 and 9 for extend and retract. We'll hit OK. And that's that. Now we've covered everything we need to. Let's see how she does. Obviously are not going to test the gear here on the ground, but we are going to test it on the runway once we depart. Test the gear setting we just made. And that'll be the last of them. And then we'll back up our controls file so this doesn't happen again. And you now get to see kind of behind the scenes as well, just how practical the setup itself actually is. rolling out right here, buddy.
Left, runway 15, runway 6, right.
So again, this is going to be a gear test now. And an easy dock test as well. Gear test. That's good. Drop gear test.
You are not cleared to take off.
And gear test good. Did I hit retract there? I don't think that I did for sure.
You are not cleared to take off.
Alright, dropping. And raising. Alright, we're good. Looks like everything may be set. Oh no, see? We just discovered another oddity. My hand was not even on the throttle. My hand was nowhere near the switch. But watch this. We're gonna raise the gear. Right? We're gonna raise the gear. Up. Right? Now watch this. Hands off. Look right here. Oh. Conflict is found. Conflict is found. So we're going to turn around, we're going to put this baby down, and we're going to solve that conflict. We've got one of the view change options messing with our gear. We can't have that. And the thought is, what if pushing this left is doing something else? Like dropping flaps full or something. Don't know. So we're gonna head back and we're gonna clear that up. That's why testing is so important. So important. Discovered another conflict with the gear. Gonna set her down and work on it where it's safe, not in the air. Hopefully it's all kind of coming together for you, and being able to see it in use, it makes sense as to why things are where they are in my setup, and you know, gives you at least some guideline for you to modify things to your liking. least amount of movement that I can make, the better it is for production value. So we'll put it on the ground and deal with that that gear conflict. It's an interesting one. I wonder if it retracts. Let's see. Sure as heck does. Oh, for somebody to switch views all the time, that sure would be a fun error. Always gotta do testing. Gotta do testing. You don't want to mess with that stuff in the air either. Better off get it to the ground. Work on it there. And off into the sand. And let's test parking brake. Engage. So that part's good. Gear. Let's work on that. Options, settings, controls. This registers as a button, and it's on the joystick. And since we just want to wipe it out altogether, what we're going to do is we're going to do the little ADF2 trick. Just double click that, shift that over to the right, button 8, landing gear extend retract. We're going to wipe that clear after we hit OK. So it's going to reassign it to ADF2, and then we're going to go and we're going to delete that assignment altogether. Now, out of curiosity, let's check what left does. Landing gear extend retract. So we're going to wipe that out the same way. Now let's double check these four. That does nothing. Clear up. That does nothing. Clear right. That does nothing. Clear bottom. That does nothing. And we'll double check the other hat switch as well. That does nothing. That's clear. All right, looks like that's going to be the end of our tuning. Now we should safely be able to hit that that key and know that the gear will not retract on us. So let's see. Good. Only a view change, as it should be. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So there you have it, folks. That wraps it up. Let's shut her down. We have now successfully reset up our X55 with all the buttons that we had originally marked on it. Hopefully this is helpful to some of you out there. If you have any questions, by all means, put it in our forums at theskylounge.tv or leave a comment in the chat below. Maserati GTR, thank you for the live stream follow, and welcome to the Sky Lounge. Leave a comment in the chat below. Again, I would love some feedback on what some of you guys might be doing with these rotaries here, as well as these mode switches here on the far left. I've been thinking about some stuff with lighting. I'll let you know if I find anything, but let me know if you have something. Outside of that, just about everything is set up again once it was the way that it was. Once you have it, to where you're happy, back up your controls file, back up your control config, so you don't have to do this all over again.
Climb maintain 13 down.
13,000, Tempo 63.
463, contact the New York Center 128.3.